So welcome and thank you all for joining this call. Hopefully you will pick up some tips and information to help with your preparations for the race. I am going to be covering most of the things I am going to be covering are actually things that are either on the website or in information I've sent you already, but it's a good chance to be reminded of all of these items and also for you to ask your questions both to myself and also my colleagues on the call. So what I'm going to cover today is brief introduction, meeting time and place, how to get to Petra, which is also known as Wadi Musa, the pre-race schedule, the race format, the course, including some changes that were made on the recent recce, small changes, and a summary of some tips for it. I'm going to talk a bit about camp life and how that works. I will talk about the expected weather, but I'll always be ready for anything. Very briefly, I'll touch on the equipment items and a few top tips. I'll go over some frequently asked questions that I've been receiving recently, and then we'll open up to everyone else and you can ask your questions. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Fanshawe, and I'm the event director for the 20-year race in Jordan. Most of your email communication has been with me so far, and I will be physically at the race as well. Also on this call is the founder of Racing the Planet, Mary Gadams. Mary will also be at the race in Jordan. And as well as that, we have Hernan Garcia, who is the course director for this race, who is literally just a few days ago returned from the most recent recce in Jordan. So he'll be covering the parts on the course itself. So the introduction, so you know who we are. Hopefully you all know that this is a 250 kilometer or a 155 mile, 6-stage, 7-day self-supported ultramarathon. It's the 75th Racing the Planet ultramarathon, and it's 2023 is the 20th anniversary of Racing the Planet, which held its first race in 2003. Whilst it's not a 4 deserts ultramarathon, this race actually is a qualifying race for the last desert in Antarctica. And as with all of our races, it's supported by an international team of staff, a management team, medical team, course team, volunteers, and a media team, as well as a big team of local staff who will help to set up the camp, arrange logistics, and the drivers there. This little picture here on the right-hand side is a gift that all of the racers and also the volunteers and staff will be given. You'll receive it in Jordan, and it's related to the fact that there is going to be a Racing the Planet cafe celebrating this as well, which I'll talk about a little bit more further through here. Just to say also quickly, so on the chat on this call, Mary Gadams is there, and you can ask your questions in there. And both Mary and also other racers and Hernan as well can answer those questions. If you have questions you want to ask in the main format, then please just write them down or remember them and hold them to the end of the call when we'll open it up to a question and answer session. So let's start with the meeting place. So the meeting place is Petra. Its actual name is Wadi Musa. The town around the UNESCO heritage site of Petra, but the whole town is known as Petra. So in this presentation, I'll be referring to it mainly as Petra. But if you hear about Wadi Musa, that's the actual town around the UNESCO site of Petra. You need to arrive there by Friday, the 3rd of November at any time. So on the 3rd itself, there will be a hotel reserved for you, and all you need to do is check in and relax or prepare or whatever you want to do. The first official meeting isn't until Saturday, the 4th of November, probably at 9 a.m. at the Old Village Resort Hotel, which is one of the 5 hotels that we are actually using for this race. You can see the 5 listed here, and I will be sending you your hotel assignment in the next week or so. Getting to Petra, the host town, so the most common way is you fly into to Amman, which is the capital of Jordan, and that's a 3 to 4 hour road transfer from Amman to Petra. Now you'll see on Google Maps from the airport is south of Amman, and it says there 2.5 hours. Some people will try to make it 2.5 hours because the Jordanians can drive very fast. But when you take into account traffic and also you telling them not to drive you fast, you're looking at 3, possibly even 4 hours. You can book a transfer, you can arrange it yourself, or you can book it through Desert Paramours, which is a company that we're working with in Jordan. Their email address is here, info@desertparamours.net. The cost for a car for 4 people is $125 that would be split between however many people there are in the car. You can also book a minivan, and if you are not arriving at the same time as anyone else that you know of, you can ask Desert Paramours if they can combine you with other people if you would like to share with others, and they will look at the times of the bookings and combine people where they can. If you want a private transfer, that's also fine, but just state it in your email to them. And they will drive you directly to your assigned hotel. You can tell them either in advance if you haven't booked it yet, or when you get into the car. Petra is not a big place, and the hotels are not very far apart. In fact, most of them are next door to each other within walking distance, and then one of them is a 10-minute drive away. You do need to book this in advance. You can't turn up at the airport and expect there to be a transfer waiting. You might be able to get a taxi at the airport, but I wouldn't recommend it. And just a note, I know a lot of flights from a lot of places actually arrive very late at night. So just a note, if you are arriving late at night, one option might be to stay the night at the Amman Airport Hotel and then arrange a transfer for the next day. Requirements to enter Jordan. Well, the good news is that all of the COVID restrictions have been lifted now. So it's just back to the standard requirements. You need a passport that's valid for at least 6 months after departure. And most countries do need a visa. But most countries can get a visa on arrival, and you have to pay for it. It's 40 Jordanian dinar, and you can pay for it on credit cards, or I believe in common currencies in cash, and certainly in Jordanian dinar if you have it. There's a few countries that do need to get a visa in advance. It's mainly African countries, and a few countries who don't need a visa at all, and that's mainly Middle Eastern countries. So I think for most people on this call and coming to the race, you can assume that you do need a visa, but you need to get it on arrival. However, if you're unsure, please check yourself with a local or your closest Jordanian embassy. Just a note for you, they do have something called the Jordan Pass. So if you're planning to arrive quite early in Jordan or stay late and see some of the sites, you can get a Jordan Pass in advance that includes your visa and also the entry to some tourist sites. I can send you the link to that if you're interested, so let me know, but it's something worth looking at if you're planning to stay or spend some time exploring Jordan. And as I said, no COVID requirements, no vaccination proof, no PCR, and the health declaration that they did require is no longer needed. A quick note on that. So because you do need to get a visa, most of you will need to get a visa on arrival, you will need to join a queue to do that. So just be prepared not to be in a rush. If you are in a rush, you might want to hurry off to be one of the first off your plane if it's possible. It's not, generally doesn't take a long time, but as you know, any queue in immigration is an extra queue you need to go through for immigration to get the visa. A few travel tips. It's very early to say this, but I can't stress it enough. Carry as much of your race gear as hand luggage as possible. For example, wear your shoes, carry your food, your sleeping bag, things that are going to be either difficult or expensive to replace, which in most cases is almost everything. But obviously don't hand carry your knife or multi-tool. Keep your powders in their original packaging until you've arrived in Jordan. It just makes customs easier. White powders in little plastic bags are a little suspicious for most countries. I put in here in brackets, like wear masks at airports and on planes. It's not a requirement. It's just that we're bringing a lot of people from, a big group of people from all different parts of the world. The best you can do to arrive without a cough or a cold or COVID will help you start the race safely. A note here, so Amman Airport is a very big airport and quite busy. So just to prepare you for that. And also a note in your planning. So for the hotels provided by Racing the Planet, the check-in time is 2 p.m. So that might help with some of your planning around transfers and arrivals, and perhaps encourage you not to rush, because you don't want to rush to get to Petra and then be sitting around there. I've had a lot of questions on this, so I am going to mention it here. So there's no COVID restrictions for entering Jordan or for when you're in Jordan. However, for the race, we've kept a couple of COVID rules or protocols in place. One is you do still need to bring 3 rapid COVID tests, and you do still need to bring 7 masks. We won't be requiring you to take a test before the race, but if you have symptoms, it's a good idea. It's no longer life-threatening, but it could be race-ending for you or for others. So we just want to contain it as much as possible. If you do get symptoms, we will suggest or require you to test. You may still be allowed to race, depending on whether our medical director feels that it's safe for you to do so. And note, be extra vigilant in the weeks leading up, so as not to bring any kind of bug or virus with you to the race as much as possible. And we still encourage you to sleep in the tents with the doors open or the mesh windows open for ventilation. Hence, we still allow you to bring an extra sleeping bag or blanket that we will carry for you. On to some more exciting topics now. So a little bit about Petra town itself. So it is a smallish town. It's about 7 square kilometers, and the permanent population is only about 17,000. I say only, it's quite big, but it's not a big town or city. However, it is quite spread out. It is hilly, and it has a maze of roads. So I put up a picture or an image of the map of Petra here, and that gives you a good idea of how higgledy-piggledy the roads are. And as an example, to get from the Old Village Resort to Petra Gate, which is where most of the other hotels are, it's less than 3 kilometers, but it would probably take you, the route there takes around 40 minutes to walk it, because of the windy route that you have to take. Petra itself relies almost entirely on tourism. So it has quite a lot of hotels, restaurants, shops, small supermarkets, some ATMs. Credit cards are widely accepted, but there aren't any full outdoor shops, which goes back to my point: prepare your gear and hand carry as much of it as possible. See here, it's not the most beautiful town, but it is quite an interesting town to be in. So if you've got a couple of days there, you will enjoy yourself there. Or of course, you can go and visit the Petra UNESCO Heritage Site, where you have a bit more time to wander around. The full itinerary here, I've taken this directly from the website, and you should be fully aware, but I wanted to put it up so it makes sense. So you have to arrive in Petra on the 3rd of November at some point. The first official meeting is on Saturday, the 4th of November, and the race itself starts on the 5th of November. A few of you have asked me, can I arrive on the 4th of November? You can, but the first meeting is planned for 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning, and we do require you to be at that meeting. So the pre-race schedule, just to make sure that you're clear. So Friday, the 3rd of November, you need to arrive at your assigned hotel, which I will tell you in the coming weeks. You need to check in, and I say relax, prepare, whatever, but the check-in time is not until 2 p.m. On Saturday, the 4th of November, that's when it all starts going. So you should have all of your preparations and work and final phone calls and everything done by Saturday morning. We'll have a briefing at 9 or 10 a.m. at the Old Village Resort. We'll do the race check-in there. About 2 p.m. we'll board the buses to go to Camp 1, and then we'll arrive in Wadi Rum at about 5 p.m. Just to warn you in advance, it's all exciting fun, but you will arrive at the gates, and then we'll be taking 4-wheel drive shuttles to camp itself. So for all the hotels, breakfast is provided at your hotel. I'm requesting all of you to check out before the briefing. You can manage that around your schedule and how things are working, but you have to have checked out by the check-in time, which in some hotels is 10 a.m. and in some hotels is 12 noon. You can leave one bag behind at the hotels that we will store for you, and you can then pick up when you return to Petra after the race. There will be shuttles arranged from the hotels that are not the Old Village where the meeting will take place, and I will send you more details about that in advance, and there'll be notes at the hotel. And then you will have time between your check-in before or after your race check-in time, and when we get on the buses to have lunch. And then on Sunday, the 5th of November, the race starts. The race starts at 8 a.m. And there'll be hot water available from about 5:30 a.m. in the morning for you to have your breakfast and final preparations before it all sets off. Post-race schedule that I want to mention here so that you're aware. So the finish is in the Petra site itself, but it will be an early finish. There'll be some food there, but then as you can see from this map here, so inside Petra itself, there are no vehicles allowed, no proper motor vehicles. Like we can't have a bus that goes there. So it will be a 2 to 3 kilometer walk out from the finish line to the gate, where either some of you are staying at hotels at the gate, or there will be a shuttle to take you to the Old Village Resort for those staying there. There will be a chance if you're not feeling like you can walk to take a donkey out, whether that's more or less comfortable, you can decide. But I want to pre-warn you of that. And also, so you have the ticket into Petra. If you want to explore more of the Petra site, you can stay in there as long as you want. I appreciate you're going to want shower and more food and a little bit of luxury, but you can explore Petra more if you want. Check-in at the hotels, again, is 2 p.m. I am working on this, but I'm not sure how much earlier we're going to be able to get it. So there will be some time. So again, there's no rush from when you finish to rush out and get back to the gate, because you might not be able to get directly into your hotel. If you've got friends and family who want to come to the finish line, let me know so that I can, with their email address, so I can put them on a list, and I will be sending out some information for them, both in advance of the race and then also during the race, to confirm the exact location and time and give them some more details about where and how to be there. Because it's finishing early, they will need to buy a ticket to enter Petra, and they probably want to do it the night before. And then the awards banquet will be that evening at the Old Village Resort Hotel. So this, I thought I'd take the opportunity to go through how the race format works on a normal day. So we've now got to Camp 1. We stayed the first night there, and then almost every morning there will be a briefing at 7:30 a.m. The hot water is available from about 5:30 for preparing your meals or having a coffee. The race starts at 8, is planned to start at 8 a.m. Everyone most days will start together, unless we tell you otherwise the night before that there'll be a staggered start. In the chance that there is a staggered start, so it's normally that the slower people who will start first, and the faster people or the lead groups who will start later, and they'll end up catching them up. Once you started, your role is to follow the pink flags or the pink tape or the pink markings that are there. They're always in line of sight, and that's the only way that you know the route of the course. So please, just do follow the flags, and we'll come on to that next. There's a checkpoint approximately every 10 kilometers or 6 miles. And so there's 4 or 5 checkpoints most stages. So you start from camp, checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3, and then checkpoint 4 is in most cases camp. There's a couple of stages where there may be an extra checkpoint, and then obviously on the long march, you have many more checkpoints before you get to the final one at camp. At each of the checkpoints, there is water, cold water to top up your water bottles. There's a doctor, there's volunteers, there's shade, and in most cases, there's also a vehicle. There is the first 2 sections, so from the start of the long march, stage 5, until checkpoint 2, we will be requiring you to carry extra water from the start, because there is no vehicle access for 20 kilometers. So at that checkpoint, you will be able to have a little top up of water, but not a full one. But you're in the shade in a canyon. So it's more just to let you know. You must leave every checkpoint with a minimum of 1.5 liters of water. So if you arrive with a liter, you only have to top up half a liter. If you arrive with nothing, you have to top up 1.5 liters of water. When you arrive at the final checkpoint, which is at camp, your time stops for the day. You then have time to rest, relax, eat, do whatever else you need to do, go to bed. And then this repeats the next day and most days. The long march is the same format, but in this case, it has 9 checkpoints. And there is an overnight checkpoint, which is over halfway. It's about the 60 kilometer, about the 40-mile, 35-mile mark, where you can get hot water for preparing a meal, and you can also rest. And at this checkpoint, there's normally about 3 hours added onto the cutoff time for when you have to leave, so that even if you're walking at the same speed and towards the back of the course, you can still able to take a break there. At this point, I am going to hand over to Hernan to talk a little bit about the course.
All right, thanks, Sam. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night, everybody around the world here. So this year, the course is going to be very, very exciting. Not any different than the last 2 times we were there, but you will be treated to a wonderful experience, because this course has so many different aspects to it. We get to start in Wadi Rum, in a wonderful desert, and through a couple of passages and canyons and ridges and different mountain climbs. We will make it all the way to Petra in six wonderful stages, 250 kilometers. So I'm pretty sure you're going to love it in theory. Then in practice, you might find times you don't like it as much, but at the end of this experience, it would be a wonderful event for everybody. So in general, like I said, the first 3 days, we're going to be running around the Wadi Rum area. The first three and a half stages are pretty much undulating terrain mixed with some soft sand and rocky terrain. No major dunes at all in this course, but there are sandy patches that we'll have to go through. Once we start stage 5, which is the long day, 88 kilometers is the plan as of today. We will go through a couple of really interesting and wonderful canyons, some of them very long. The first of them is about 30 kilometers worth of canyons. And hopefully you have a lot of opportunities to take really good pictures there. And then get ready for a steep climb, because unfortunately Petra is the highest point of the course almost, and we have to go there. So the last 30 or 40 kilometers of stage 5 is going to be a steep incline. And if you want to put the maybe Sam, you can put the profile of the elevation on the next slide. I think it was those were cool pictures. Yeah. So this is pretty much breaking it up on the 6 stages, and you can see on the 5th one, the long one, how we start the first 30 kilometers going down the canyon, and then up road. The terrain is technical, but you will love the views. Every kilometer of this course has incredible views, and they're astonishing. So. Last day we finish. It's a very short run into Petra. Our campsite is above the ancient town of Petra, and within 8 kilometers, everybody will be inside the area where we will finish the course with some incredible sights. I don't know how many people on the call have been to Petra, but it's an amazing site. So. That's it. It's going to be a lot harder to run it than it is to talk about it, but One thing that Sam did mention, going back to the pink flags and the markers on the course, Sam. So we typically mark the course with pink flags, pink tape. Most of these have reflective tape as well. So with your headlamp, you will be able to see them with no problems. And additionally, we don't have a picture of that, but we do add green glow sticks at those stages where we believe you will be running at night. So a couple of comments that I would like to make on course marking itself. We always stress the importance of following the markers. Even though you might be on following a dry riverbed, but there could be 3 different ways out of this dry riverbed, and if you're not paying attention to the markers, you might find it the hard way that you have to come back and rerun the last couple hundred meters because you were not following the markers. So pay attention. Markers will be placed with a lot more emphasis on those points where you have to make a decision as to where to go. Sometimes markers do tend to fall because of the wind, or even animals like to chew on these markers. So pay attention to that. And something that I also like to stress is this course, to the time of the year that we're running, the weather is going to be nice. Typically not as hot as it was when I was just there a couple of weeks ago or so. It will be hot running weather. But one of the things is it gets dark relatively early, so make sure those of you who are running on the slower end of the line have a good headlamp, because you will obviously on the long stage pretty much everybody will be running at night, but the terrain is technical, so try to have a good headlamp. That would be an advice for that. So. And then challenges. Challenges on the course, of course, sandy terrain throughout the whole length of the course. Like I said, no big dunes, but still some soft sand here and there. We have a big climb, even though the first 4 days are rolling terrain, but there are some relatively short, steep climbs, but the big one will be on day 5. Extremely rocky terrain. We're running on dry riverbeds, so expect lots of rocks. We have there's a picture on the left there. There's a big rock that was placed in our way in the canyon. There's a way through it, but you will have to get down on your knees, possibly remove your backpack and go through it. In that picture, I went through it with my backpack on. I had a similarly sized backpack than we would expect any runner to have. So it can be done, but it will slow you down a little bit. Good opportunity for pictures. And temperatures. Anybody who has run in deserts knows it. There's no shade, so the sun really cooks you. Good thing is this time of the year is cooler. But expect high temperatures and make sure you have good protection for skincare and so on, and plenty of water. Cutoff times, these vary depending on the difficulty of the terrain. We try to establish in such a way that most people can walk it. So typically 4 km/h pace is the typical cutoff times, and we will review these as the events go through. So some course tips. I mentioned a couple of them as we started, but the first 2 or 3 days are relatively easier compared to the long stage. It's the terrain is not as technical. Even though there is a little bit of sand and you still have rocks, but the advice is always start slowly. Your backpack is the heaviest on day number 1 and day number 2, so take care. It's a long race, so make sure you take care of your body, take care of your feet. Stay hydrated throughout the whole day. Don't wait until you get to the checkpoint to drink. if you feel any discomfort or anything like that in your feet, try to take care of it as soon as you can. That way, once you get to the checkpoint, you can get assisted by the medical staff there if necessary, or some of your fellow runners. Most of the times, your fellow runners are the ones who are going to help you the most throughout the whole race. Prepare for the weather. That time of the year, it gets cooler at night, so it's you will start the day and you go, oh, it's a cool day. It's easy, but it does get hot fast. So there's always shade here and there. So if you are feeling a little bit under the weather in terms of heat, try to find some shade, and you will recover amazingly fast. You'll be surprised. So.
Okay, thank you, Hernan. I'm just coming on here to show you some photos. The top 3 levels were ones that Hernan just took last week. So you can see them, and these are all on the website. They're the first ones that will come up when you go on there. So if you want to go and see some of the photos from what's happening now. I'm just going to mute everyone. I was worried to do it whilst Hernan was talking, so I didn't mute him. One moment. Okay. Okay, so you can see these photos from the recent recce on the website. I think one question for you, Hernan, which I know I'll ask at the end, but your thoughts about gators based on the amount of sand that there is.
So yeah, gators is always very, very personal choice. I normally don't run with a gator, even on very sandy terrain like in Sahara dunes and so on. But I think due to the fact that there is a lot of loose sand, especially on the first 3 days, it's not a bad idea to have a gator. You don't necessarily need to have the full shoe gator. If you have just a traditional booty that goes on top of the your ankle areas, that should be enough. But in my opinion, yeah, if you like to run in trails with gators, definitely take them. Personally, I don't use them, but I would advise anybody that is used to having them to take them. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then one other question for you in front of everyone. So Hernan told me he thinks the course is actually quite a challenging course compared to many of the other courses that he himself has run with us or worked on before. Just briefly, Hernan, do you want to give a couple of points as to why you think why you thought it was quite a challenging course?
The difficulty of the course is again staying focused on that long stage. The long stage starts very easy in a way because it's a wonderful canyon, 30 kilometers. The views are just amazing. The terrain is challenging because it's a dry riverbed, so you have lots of rocks. You have to go slowly and climb a little bit up and down and so on and so forth. The challenge really becomes once you get to the 30-kilometer mark, you have a solid 30 to 35 kilometers of slowly climbing your way back up to Petra. So not only it's a climb, but it's also technical terrain. So that would be the biggest challenge. I think the beautiful thing of this course, and many of you on the call have done Atacama maybe, and it's how diverse the terrain is, how many different views you have, and this is what you can expect here, which will be an amazing course. But the challenging day number 5 is the climb. I would say the climb, and a lot of you will have part of the climb at night. So be ready for that. Mm-hmm. But it's a wonderful experience, and once you get into Petra, it's an unforgettable. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hernan. And you can ask questions to Hernan directly at the end, but I just wanted him to give I wanted you to hear his opinion on the course. Now moving on to camp and how camp works. So at camp, there is tents, there are fires later on in the evening, there is hot water available. There is a cyber tent where you can receive messages sent to you through our website, and also send messages, simple messages through our email address, if you want to, if you buy a cyber tent package, if you want to do that. There'll be cold water. All the water being given out is in large 10 or 20 litre containers. So you can't expect to use one of the smaller bottles for either for carrying your water or for preparing food. The shared tents that we have will be put up for you, and you will be pre-assigned to a set tent for the week. We still have the option where you can bring a single tent. You need to bring it yourself. You need to set it up and take it down, but we will carry it for you from camp to camp. So the hot water is available. It's from about 5:30 a.m. until about 7:30 a.m. before the race starts at 8. And then in the afternoon from around 2 p.m. until about 9 p.m., depending on when the last person is still up or sitting around the fire. At camp, there are toilets provided. They're not the toilets you're used to at home, but there are toilets, and you must use them so that we're not littering the area and making it unhygienic and unpleasant for others in the future. However, if you need to go to the toilet whilst you're on the course during a stage, then you need to go al fresco. We'll give you toilet paper bags for you to, like dog poop bags, for you to put your toilet paper in that you can throw away at the next checkpoint. And we ask, if you're doing anything solid, that you dig a small hole and cover it with your foot, and then cover it over with sand or rocks. There are no showers or washing facilities at camp. There will be the opportunity for you to just use a small bowl to wash your feet, to keep them clean, because it's so important, but that's it. So campfires morning and evening for warmth and camaraderie. In addition to the cyber tent, which I mentioned, we will also, as part of our 20th anniversary celebrations, be having a Racing the Planet cafe, where you will be able to get tea and coffee. It'll be in the morning before the race starts, and also at certain times in the afternoon. It does mean that we're giving you both the coffee and the tea and the hot water that goes with it. But if you're an absolute, very specific about when you want your coffee or tea, I would still bring some with you. So it would be very disappointing if you were desperate for a coffee and it wasn't at the time that the Cyber Tent Cafe is open. And then at camp and also the checkpoints, there are rubbish bins provided that you can put your trash into. You must not leave any trash in your tents or around camp or along the course. And there will be severe penalties if you do, but you don't have to carry all your trash with you. You can put it into the rubbish bins that we provide. I mentioned that the tent options, so I'm just showing you what they look like. So the shared tent looks like this one in the top left. A personal tent or a single tent is one you would bring yourself, but here's an example. You can't bring an enormous tent that we will carry around for you. It's got to be a suitable size for one person. If you're coming with someone you know and you want to share an individual tent with them, you can bring a two-person tent. And then we will have this is actually a checkpoint, but we will have some of these checkpoint tents at camp for anybody who wants to sleep in the open air. You can either sleep under this, which as you can see has no walls, or you can sleep within the camp compound just directly under the stars. A bit more on the cyber tent, the media and the race coverage. So the cyber tent is a place you can see here. It's a very simple tent in general, where we'll have a handful of tablets and iPads. On there, your friends can send you messages through the results page of the website. You'll see there's an icon next to it that says send an email. They can send you a message through that, and you can read that in the cyber tent in an Excel spreadsheet. If you want to send messages out or write a blog, then you will need to buy a cyber tent package. In the cyber tent, you can also view results, but note that everything in the cyber tent is offline, and then we connect it later on once in the evening and once in the morning to send and receive everything that has been, all of the traffic that's coming in and going out. Your friends can also follow the race through the race website. It'll be updated daily with results, photos, videos, blogs, and a brief stage update. And there'll also be 4 or 5 little breaking news clips that are on the website, but that they can also have sent to them on their email. They can sign up to have sent to them on the email, so they keep an eye, and they get a running commentary of what's going on with the race. It's things like the race has started, who the leaders are, what people are saying on the course, how the weather is, and then when as people finish, we'll be updating that periodically. We also have a media team on site, so photographers and videographers covering the entire race. They're covering it for the website, but if you don't want to carry your own camera or way of taking videos, you can also purchase a photo or video package, which will have about 500 general photos. So the photo package has about 500 general photos of the race, and then at least 10, but normally way more than that, just of you. And the video package ends up being a 2 or 3 minute video, which covers the race as general, but with specific footage of you and interviews with you. We will also, which we haven't made public yet, but we are able to tell you, we also have the Japanese broadcasting company, or a company on behalf of NHK, who will be there filming the race for a documentary that they'll be airing in Japan. So Hernan has mentioned the weather already, and I hate to mention the weather, but to put what he said into figures. So it should be, during the day, average 30 Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit, but be ready for it to be up to 40 Celsius or over 100 Fahrenheit, just because in the desert, it's always hotter than it's predicted to be, and it's better to be prepared for the worst, or prepared for hotter than not. And it's cool at night, but it generally isn't freezing, so down to about 5 degrees or 41 Fahrenheit. But it can be very windy, especially in the afternoon and evening, but at all times. So again, just to be prepared for that. There is a small chance of rain. They do have rainfall occasionally in November in Jordan, but it's not common. But when the sun is shining, it's a very strong sun with high UV. So don't scrimp on your sun cream. Right, moving on to equipment. Now, this is a whole topic in itself, so I'm not going to go into the finite detail, but just some highlights. So there's 37 mandatory items in total, and you must have all of these in the required quantity and meeting the requirements that are there. It sounds like a lot, but to put it into perspective, that also includes your shoes, your running gear, the safety pins you need to put the bibs on. So it's from every expanse, but it does also include the backpack, which is key for you, obviously, hydration system, which is the way that you can carry and access water for you to drink, and then also food, which will generally take up about half of your backpack and probably about half of the weight of your backpack as well. You can see the full equipment list on the website. The website address is at the bottom here. And I have also sent you an update with a little bit more information about certain items there. But please check that through in detail. And if you've got questions on them, you can let me know at the end of this call or by email. Something that's new for some of you. So since COVID, we allowed people to bring an extra sleeping bag or blanket that we will carry for you. You still have to carry a sleeping bag that's rated to 0 Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit. But you can, if you want to, as an optional, you can bring an extra one that fits inside a bag that's no bigger than 35 litres that we will carry for you from camp to camp. You can pick up in the afternoon, and then you just need to take to the same spot every morning for us to then carry it to the next camp. But that is all you can put in it, is either an extra sleeping bag or blanket, and then the COVID test that we require you to bring, you can also put those in there, but nothing else. If you are choosing a single tent, you bring your single tent, but that will be separate to your drop bag, and we will carry that for you as well. A few optional items that I do recommend that you consider. It doesn't mean you have to bring them, but sleeping pad is one. So as Hernan said, the first three and some stages and a bit of stage 4 are quite sandy, so a bit more comfortable to sleep on, but then it gets rockier and rockier, and the final campsite is very rocky. And besides, a sleeping pad will give you some protection from the cold as well as the rocks. The tents that you have, they have a ground sheet and it's attached to the sides. It's a waterproof ground sheet, but it doesn't offer any protection from the cold or from the rocks. Gaiters, Hernan's talked about that already. Poles is just something, it's an optional item. If you like them, you might want to consider bringing them, especially you might appreciate it on the climbs, the ups and also the downs. Toothbrush is optional, but I would highly recommend you bring one. And camp shoes is the other optional item that I would suggest you consider. It's quite nice when you get back at camp to be able to put your feet into a pair of flip-flops or a lightweight pair of sandals. A few quick tips on highlights of the equipment. So shoes suitable to the terrain. It is quite sandy to start with, so you don't want to have a shoe which is full of mesh unless you're wearing a full gaiter. And then it's quite rocky towards the end, so I wouldn't recommend you have a very thin sole because you'll feel every rock through the soles of your shoes. The capacity, so you have to bring the ability and the capacity to carry 2.5 litres of water. And you will need to carry this amount of water at least once during the race, and that's on stage 5. So you not only must you have it because it's a requirement, but you will actually be using it. But most of the time you want to have 1.5 litres that is accessible. So just quickly on that, the way most people do it, and I do recommend it, is to have potentially 2 750 ml bottles that you have on the straps of your backpack, which adds up to the 1.5 litres. So it's easily accessible to drink, and it's also easy accessible to fill up. And then you have a foldable, lightweight water bag, a bit like a bladder, but without the tube, that you can put extra water in, but when it doesn't have water in, it's very light and doesn't take up much space. And the last point that I haven't covered before was the coverage from the sun. So hats, caps are required, neck cover is required, and long sleeves are something you might want to consider for protection from the sun. So these are a few questions that I get asked commonly about races, and so I wanted to cover those we haven't already covered off here. So are there any water crossings? And Anne, I'll let you answer that.
Actually, no, hopefully no water crossings. These are dry riverbeds, so if there is a little bit of rain in the vicinity, it might, but chances are very, very low. We do go through a couple of springs, so the terrain will be a little bit muddy, but I wouldn't call that a water crossing. So this is a dry race. So yeah, very comfortable saying no water crossings.
We've spoken about gaiters. Do I get hot water on the course? So no. Well, you get cold or cool water, not boiling water at the checkpoints. You only get hot water at camps and at one checkpoint, the overnight checkpoint on the Long March, which is about 60 kilometers into the 88-kilometer stage. Spoken about the cutoff times on the Long March. Pack weight, so everyone's is different. On average, I would suggest that you want to keep your pack to around 10 kilos and not go over 12 kilos. And Nan, can you convert that for me to pounds? I thought you might know.
Yeah, I can, but it will take some time to do the calculator.
I'll let someone do it in the chat. But so average pack weight is about 10 kilos. And I would suggest you try not to go over 12 kilos. And both of those weights are talking about it without water in it already. The lightest pack is likely to be around 5.5 or 6 kilos kg, but I'm pretty sure that whoever has that pack with all of the mandatory equipment will be on an absolute minimum of everything, and they will either be cold or hungry or both. So it's possible, but I don't recommend going as low as that. And the heaviest pack will likely end up being around 15 or 16 kilos, but I highly suggest you keep it to under 12. So water is provided for consumption only, other than, so there's the drinking water allocation, which is to leave every checkpoint with 1.5 litres of water, and then an allocation at camp of 4.5 litres of water, which is to last you from when you arrive at camp for the rest of that evening, the next morning, and the first section the the next day, so until checkpoint 1 the following day. In addition to that, there is hot water available for preparing your hot meals and drinks, or boiling water, but it's not there for washing. What is the withdrawal rate? So on average at Racing the Planet races, it's these days between 8 and 15% of people who start the race do not finish it, which means that the majority of people do finish it. And the most common reason for not finishing, probably number 1 is blisters. Number 2 is just not being prepared physically and mentally, so not having put in the training and not being mentally able to stay strong when your physical state is not as it should be, ready for the race. Other reasons people stop, often it's heat related, so or food and hydration related. So people who haven't been keeping to their food and hydration plan, they've got overexcited and forgot to drink or forgot to eat for too long, and then it just takes a long time for people to catch up with that. The sunrise and sunset time, so it's a relatively short day. So it will be light by 7:30, and it will be dark by before 7:30, and sunset is 7 p.m. So it's a relatively short day. If people are out there a little bit longer, we will have reflective tapes on the markers and some glow sticks. But you'll likely be getting up in the dark. And for some of you, you'll be getting back just around when it gets dark. And finally, can my friend or family be part of the race? So they can be. They can either join the friends and family experience, where they can come out to, we'll take them out to Camp 6. They can spend the night, they can see you, they can spend the night there in a tent that we provide, not with you. They can eat freeze-dried meals. And then they can either choose to run the final stage with you or be taken to the final finish line to meet you there. Or they can come to the finish line itself on their own accord. And as I said, let me know if they want to do that so I can keep them informed and see you finish. And then they can also come to the awards banquet in the evening if they would like to, in which case they will need to, unless they're on the friends and family experience, they will need to buy a banquet ticket, which is on the website. So reminder before I come on to the Q&A of some resources where you'll find a lot of this information and more. So the course information on the website, the equipment list is on the website. This isn't the first time that we've held a race in Jordan. So we were there on a similar course in 2012 and in 2014. And you can see photos from both of those races and also from the recce's that we've done for the race this year. You can also see blog entries from both of those races, and said it was on a similar course. So it gives you a lot of insight of how people felt when they were doing the course previously. And often they have, some of them have things that they would change for next time or if they were doing it again. The Racing the Planet Facebook community page it's a two-way forum where you can ask questions, and our alumni, both new and old and future, are very good at answering questions, so you can get somebody else's perspective, not just ours. There is a whole page of expert articles that covers things like how to manage heat, or what to look out for if you're overheating and how to prevent it, from blisters to talking about the different types of sleeping bags that you can get and how to choose one. So there's a vast array of features on that page. There is a video of the Stage 5 canyon we've been talking about, not the hill, just the canyon part, taken last week on the recce. And there's plenty more videos on the Racing the Planet YouTube channel about equipment, about food, about a few from the race in Jordan previously as well. And finally, I will set up a WhatsApp group for people who are racing, and then also the volunteers separately in the race in Jordan, for those who want to join there, so you can be connected yourselves. There does tend to be quite a lot of chat on these WhatsApp groups, so don't feel you have to join, but you might find it interesting to ask your questions to the group or hear what people have to say. Before we come on to your questions, here are some photos from the previous editions of the race, and all of these you can see on the website itself as well. Let's go to any questions that you guys have that you haven't already asked in the chat that you'd like to ask to myself, Mary, or Hernan. If you would just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Let me jump in first, Sam. So there's a question regarding reptiles, animals that we see along the course or possibly see along the course. So we will be seeing camels and we will be seeing goats. That's for sure, especially this time of the year. A lot of the Bedouin families are coming down to the lower altitudes and they just move in and they'll be walking around with their animals. In terms of reptiles, snakes, scorpions, they are in the desert. Typically, they hide underneath rocks, plants, and so on. So it's very, very, very rare that we encounter one. So the only advice would be if you're going to the toilet along the course or if you're walking around canyons, make a lot of noise. Don't get into little crevasses very fast, because that's where normally these guys would hang out. So I would say no major issues, but you just need to be cautious about that.
Yeah, agreed. Does anybody else have a question that they would like to ask us whilst we're here and available? Oh, good.
How many people are taking part now for this race?
There will we expect there to be more than 200 on the start line. At the moment, I think we're trying to limit it, but there's 250 set to go at the moment, so there'll be over 200 on the start line.
Sam, can you talk about the last day of the hotel when we check out? Like, because we have to book our flights and then we have to, I guess, hire a car to take us from the hotel to the airport. Is there traffic? Are there any other delays that we need to be aware of?
Nothing that's not normal for other places. So allow 4 hours for that transfer, and that should be plenty enough. And allow that if you allow to get there 2 hours in advance before your flight, then that gives you some backup both ways, but that should be more than fine. It doesn't take, so I'll let Hernan just answer on that, the process of getting through the airport, but it's no different to any other airport in the world. There's nothing to know about other than what you would expect for when you travel normally, but it does take a bit of time.
Just a quick comment on the entry into Jordan is just like any other international entry. You also have to go through double security leaving Jordan as well. So sometimes there could be a slight delay there because they do scan every piece of equipment that you're carrying prior to entering the airport. So the good news is that the airport is south of Amman. So if there's any traffic, typically would be between the airport and Amman. So if you're coming from Petra, you're avoiding all of that. It's pretty much a highway all the way into the airport.
Good. Any other questions? Was there anything else in the chat, Mary or Hernan, that is worth bringing up to everybody here? No. Good. Then reminders for all of you. So final checklist of things that you need to be doing or have done. So finalizing your travel to Petra, that's both your flight to Amman, your transfer from Amman to Petra, and if you need extra hotel rooms before the 3rd or after the 12th. So you need to book those. I recommend you book them soonish as well if you haven't already. Check your equipment against the equipment list and make sure it's all suitable and that you've got everything in the required quantities. Secure your patches to all tops. So just to be clear, everybody on all tops that are going to be visible on the course or at camp, you have a Racing the Planet patch on top and your nationality patch underneath. We've sent out the Racing the Planet patches, so you should have received them or be receiving them soon. If you haven't, you can let me know separately. Fill out the mandatory forms. The deadline was last week, and I do have almost all of your forms. But if you haven't, please finalize those last few. Keep to your training plan, and very important, stay injury-free as best that you can. Watch or read the recommended information that I spoke about on a previous slide, and then get yourself to Petra on Friday, the 3rd of November. We are very much looking forward to holding this race, to seeing you all there, and to helping you prepare with over the next, what are we now, 8 weeks to go, 9 weeks to go. Okay, thank you very much for joining this call. It has been recorded and will be on YouTube, and I will send the link to those who wanted it probably tomorrow, in case you want to rewatch it or to have a copy of this presentation itself. So yes, thank you all very much, and we'll keep in touch and see you in Petra on the 3rd of November.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. See you
Thank
all in
you.
Jordan.
See you
Bye,
all.
everyone.
Guys, see you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.